It's a full bouquet on Rise and Shine this morning. Of course, we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. What we love to do the most is talk about issues that are of national importance to our country. We like for you to make your contributions, raise your concerns, and give us feedback. You can do so by taking advantage of all our social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. As I said earlier, we're being joined by citizen Matthew O'Connor, who is the founder and president of Open Forum, of course, a non-governmental organization that looks into, issues that concern Nigerians and citizens, offering and preferring solutions. You could call him a public affairs analyst if you will, but we are going to be looking at certain issues. I'd like to first of all piggyback on the whole conversation between the federal government and bringing down the Advertising Agency of Nigeria as a result of the advertisement that they put up, some Nigerians put up with the hashtag All Eyes on the Judiciary. We must first of all establish that it is in the natural recourse for all eyes to be on the judiciary as expected, the last hope of the common man. But it looks like this has become a problem. Why do you dissolve an entire agency that has lasted for several years, helping us to man the system of advertising, cutting across media space and all other agencies at this time, because the conversation is gone against certain Kahoot?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I want to say that Nigeria is in a situation where citizens and even those that threw themselves up to be given the mandate to lead, their expectation, or what some of us believe should have been their expectation, will have been to reset the country, make the country to be better than where we were. Remember, during the last administration, there was something called NSAS. NSAS, for some of us, was not just talking about reforms of the police force, which was the main issue that instigated NSAS. For some of us, it was to end special armed robbery. Special in the sense that governments have lost touch with reality. Those in government believe that they have license. The immunity some of them have been turned to impunity. And at the end of the day, you find that there's no accountability, no productivity, and virtually every sector had collapsed. And those that held contrary views were seen to be anti-government. The level of propaganda by those in government, even to their own shame, became so high that they even had to start probing themselves. We saw that. So 2023 election was, like some people used to say then, a do or die affair. Yes, it was a make or mar election. And by the grace of God, we had the amendments of the electoral law, which introduced some checks that will guarantee that you can't rig election like before. Fast forward, we are in courts. Okay, we call it tribunal, because those that were declared winners and those that were said not to have won, they have issues and they are in court. And this very level of litigation does not have equivalent. Even the 1979 12 to 3rd of 19, which was it was a revolutionary case, the MPN and the UPN era, Obafemi Awolowo and Shehu Shagari's era, where the Supreme Court needed to interpret what is the 12 to 3rd of 19. Very controversial. In fact, the best mathematicians gave their own result, but the Supreme Court felt otherwise. So, coming to the issue of all eyes on judiciary, the Nigerians are going through what they never believed. In fact, even the leaders themselves, by now, they should have discovered that there is an intellectual vacuum. We had likely overhyped some persons. Nobody should campaign. Nobody should aspire to public office without a clear plan. So once you get elected, you are hitting the ground running, which has become a signature tune to everybody. Hit the ground running, and we are seeing people hitting the ground, and the ground is running, and they are still stuck where they are. So Nigerians are looking at the judiciary. Not a matter that, oh, it's opposition people that are looking at the judiciary. Even people that voted for those that are in power. It's not just at the national level. Different states, though we have possibly less litigations, particularly having to do with National Assembly, because the technology that was adopted for the election was implemented for the National Assembly. But, and even maybe the governorship, but when it went to the presidential, the stories that touch the heart now setting. So instead of people saying, oh, because of the fuel subsidy which you just talked about, which has created has opened up the reality that there was no clear plan for what government went into, citizens have refused to hit the streets. Why? Because they are looking at, is there alternative, or can we hear what the court will say? If we do this now, it may be misconstrued that, oh, it's the opposition that are doing it. Now they converted that energy to say, all eyes on judiciary. It's a consciousness. It's not a violent thing. And for the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria to sanction a body that is responsible to vet adverts like that, no pictures were shown, only the gavel. If it's not there on billboards, it will be there on social media, it's there on people's consciousness. So it's an indication that some persons are not comfortable about real conversations that may even help they themselves to set things and give people hope, have peace. Let's see what comes out of the judiciary. So it has raised a question mark on the professional body itself. I believe that sanction is too grievous, it's too heavy. It's like killing an ant with a sledgehammer. It could have been, okay, let's look into it and let's see what we can do. But to just come out outrightly, it also puts them also on the spotlight.
But the contention with regards to that particular issue is the fact that it is throwing up, a case that is still in the court of jurisdiction. The Election Petition Tribunal is still ongoing because a resolution hasn't been given by the court yet. So the offended parties are saying you cannot, have a debatable conversation, around a matter that is still in court. You cannot be advertising a case that is still in court. There is a picture story that we threw up this morning where the judges allegedly are saying having our pictures or our stories on billboards is a threat to our lives. So let's look at it from that angle. How does having this hashtag that has been trending for over a week, the reactions are just coming in now, having these reactions, all eyes on the judiciary, does it really affect the proceedings, of a court? Is this really, pressurizing the judiciary to even attempt to influence their, what would I call it, end statement at the end of the day?
Well, when there are cases in courts, people, particularly the parties, are not allowed to discuss, to bring out the details and give the possible outcome and all of that. But the reality is that you cannot stop conversation. You can't stop conversation of cases going on in court, particularly when virtually the entire population are interested in the outcome. Remember, it's just about a little over 30% was the difference that made the present administration at the national to be declared winner. When you put the entire votes together, the opposition had more votes, over 60%, which means we are looking at the country where almost 65 or call it almost 70% of people didn't vote for the winner, which makes the winner the winning very slim and in the minority. And because of their interest, remember, there was that appeal to the judiciary that the proceedings should be streamed live for people to watch. That shows the interest. We've never had it so raw that the court had to give a pronouncement that we are not going to stream live. But then we still have reports from court. Citizens must be informed. Analysts must analyze what is going on. You can't stop that. No matter who you think you are, it becomes very difficult. People only get on the wrong side of the law when they now want to put words into the mouth of the panel of judges. And before even the exit of the last administration, we heard what the then Minister for, Minister for Information went to say. Was it in London?
Mohammed.
Yes. That the election was free and fair, and the things he was saying, this matter is in court. And you are giving impression, telling the foreign media, people are not, you don't follow the story, you don't know the story, look at your reports, you are this. That in itself alone, the court should have complained.
Okay, but part of the questions that is being put on the table is the fact that this conversation, this propaganda that has been thrown up by some Nigerians, even going to the extent of putting on billboards, of which the advertising agency has been, wholesomely scrutinized for not vetting that kind of advertisement with the guidelines of the agency. The conversation and the problem is that this can instigate public unrest and, breach public peace.
No, I don't agree with that. The only thing is that they have their rules. If those entrusted to vet Advert did not find anything wanting, it's not they are live. Those billboards were not put up illegally, and I understand that those billboards, at least I've not seen one in our state here.
It was majorly in the FCT.
In the FCT, yes, and very massive billboard. There's a process to go about it. I don't sanction the issue of either putting their pictures or telling them what to do, or you're putting up a particular political party has a signature there. No, there's nothing like that. So they need to do more homework to fine-tune that. But the issue of all eyes on the judiciary has been on right from day one. For the mere fact that people said, we want this thing to be televised live. There are some other countries that they televise live proceedings of tribunals. In fact, Oputa panel was televised live. That was a very sensitive tribunal. Understand? So at the end of the day, you don't try to make too much fuss out of what could have been handled without making it sensational. After all, there are even more serious issues which citizens like. Talk about the issue of going to war in Niger. You've heard the position of citizens, clergies, and you've seen that the best job done to save us from embarrassment, to save us from the risk of going to a war that does not concern us the way they are doing it, is from the public. So you cannot say, because Mr. President has spoken, because he's the chairman of ECOWAS, whatever he says is law. No! Every leader is a servant. You're a servant leader, and you must come back to the people that gave you the mandate. What do you say about this?
But they also saying this as some form of blackmail against the judiciary.
It is not blackmail at all. Judges, and when you look at where we have come from, particularly the last administration, what happened in the judiciary, where judges were raided at very odd hours in the midnight, arrested, given charges that were not real. Some of them were later exonerated. But by this time, a whole serving Chief Justice of the Federation had been ousted. And somebody was brought in. And even the issues raised around the person that was brought in was waved aside. What happened finally? The same judges at the Supreme Court petitioned the Chief Justice of the Federation. And finally, the man had to go. And as we speak, the corruption allegations there against the registrar happened to be over 100 and something billion. So the judiciary themselves have been on the spot. And some judgments which have become so controversial that even they themselves, they now start joining issues with public who are saying, how can you, somebody did not contest election, did not even buy form, there was not even a nomination, and you've given that person a ticket or the go ahead to go back to where he was coming from, where he never even participated.
Two things.
And even,
okay.
And even the international community, we've seen or we've heard that some judges have been barred from entering a place like United States of America. Why? Because the kind of judgments they have participated in by public discussions, appraisal, including by even legal luminaries, are something that doesn't really go down well. Nobody is intimidating anybody. If anybody is going to intimidate anybody, it will be those that want to say that, oh, black is white and white is black. You have to accept it, otherwise, like they used to say, INEC chairman, he said, go to court. And by the time you now go to court, we are seeing the outcome from the court. So the conversation cannot be wished away, and people will not be shut up.
So, just to bring this, together, this particular action is, termed towards the APC government, and has the persona of the president being attached to this move to disband, the advertising agency of Nigeria. And one conversation that has been thrown up again as a result of this is the perceived authoritarian leadership style of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and also seeing the fact that he seems to be very dictatorial in his throwing up dictatorial tendencies. Because throw your mind back, one of our sister stations, someone went there, had an interview, they were slammed. So it's just more like, once you have a conversation that does not sit in a way that augurs well to certain parties, you get a slam. Holistically, where do you think this is going to put Nigerians? Where do you think this is going to put the media and even the freedom of speech in the country with this particular administration?
Well, a new Nigeria was born on the 25th of February. I keep saying that till we come to full knowledge of that. That new Nigeria was because citizens became very conscious. They wanted to be free from a leadership that was like a deity, the deity that was not doing the people good. That was what some persons made out of President Muhammadu Buhari. Some of us that said, the man is failing. He's not doing things rightly. And they will say, no, he's bringing out 100 million people out of poverty. Within this period, we'll be getting 10 million out by this time. And before you know it, over 133 officially. You can consider it up to almost 170 million Nigerians have been thrown to multidimensional poverty. For Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the issue that, is autocratic, is authoritarian, is this and that, for me, and for anybody that knows what it means to come through elective office, a number of people that come through elections are at the mercy of what they call godfathers. They can hardly ask, because what would the godfather say? I'm going to offend somebody. But that's the difference with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He does not have a godfather. He is a godfather himself. And the advantage Nigeria is supposed to derive from that is because we've been saying we need a leader with the political will. We need a leader with the vision. We need a leader who can stamp his feet and take a decision. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has all of that going for him. But what has been my position? My position has been that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not a follower. He is a born leader. And a typical born leader naturally may have the tendencies to be feared by his subordinates, who will not be able to tell Your Excellency, please, can I share my thought on this? Most of them are sycophants, propagandists. All they want to do, sing his praise so that you can have something to take. That's why we need people that tell truth to power. What am I trying to say? Someone's antecedents is what he brings to the table. I grew up in Lagos, far back early 70s. I had my primary, secondary school in Lagos. So I know Lagos, I know the people. I speak the language. And we know how Lagos progressed. We saw when some parts of Lagos was very local. So when people overhype Mr. President as the maker of Lagos, We say it's strange. Don't do this to him. Nigeria, one, is not even Lagos. And what were his antecedents? He is firm. He is able to, get people working for him. Even after leaving power, he still has a full grip of Lagos. Nobody can deny that fact. But what are the things we can say? If he did this in Lagos, if he does it here, let's just go to sleep. You can't really have that. So the challenge now becomes, we need to help Mr. President. One, age is no longer on his side. There's something somebody could have done when he was a bit younger, but he cannot do it now. So if we need somebody who has a political will to take decision, we have Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What decision is he taking? Like when you saw him at the swearing in, he just announced subsidy is gone, which was not in his inaugural speech. And he went to France almost 2 weeks after to say that he was possessed by courage. You don't get possessed by courage that
and an entire country is running defined on that possession.
Yes. And some persons who will have helped him, like the NNPC, who have been the problem of this country, immediately they now went and announced a new price. You are no longer a regulating body. NNPC is a company. To cut the whole matter short, for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Mr. President, to be seen as somebody that has political will can take decision is to our advantage. The only disadvantage we have is like what I said earlier. There is a very serious knowledge gap. Which must be filled by citizens.
Right.
And for instance, the issue of the first one, we cannot talk about, shy away from it. We'll talk about it until it will sink. The problem in that sector was not subsidy. It has never been subsidy. The problem has been corruption, which Mr. President himself owned up in his speech, that there is what is called elites of elites.
Elites of elites.
Which he himself, surprisingly, is afraid to touch. Until he touches those people, brings them to book, we don't have any way forward. So we cannot stop conversation. Nobody anywhere will tell us, don't raise issues, don't raise conversations, don't raise hashtags.
Yeah. Hashtags are, part of the things that have brought us to the place that we are. But like Citizen Matthew O'Connor, founder and president of Open Forum, has said, one of the biggest gaps that we have is that of, citizen knowledge and participation in what is going on in our country. And throwing up this citizen participation and knowledge is part of the things that brought to birth the hashtag all eyes on the judiciary. But we see how it's going. But fingers are still crossed. Eyes are still on the judiciary. And let's see how this will go in the next couple of days, running into weeks. But this is the much we can bring to you on Rise and Shine this morning. A very big thank you to our guest, Citizen Matthew O'Connor, for coming on the show and sharing his wealth of knowledge.